everyone, please, they can hear you over there. Please get your snacks, bring them over, and we're gonna get started. I'm gonna count to 10. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.5, 9 3/4, 10. Yes, please get over here. Thank you, everyone. Well, I don't think I have to tell you who I am. You just ended up with my name and picture over there. It is an honor for me to be here with all of you. This is a very significant day for all of us because 10 years ago we started the Ascender program. We had a different name. It was too long. We decided that we would have a competition to have students decide what we should be naming. And it was actually students from Austin Community College that chose Ascender. And Ascender stands for Achieving Student Confidence, Encouraging New Dreams, Equity Realized. Things about our program is that we are what our practitioners, what our students have made us. Margaret Mead said something about never underestimate what a group of committed individuals can do to change the world. And I can really tell you that when you hear about the wonderful things from other people about what our program has been able to accomplish in 10 years, you will see that that is in fact true. Our program started with a group of folks with no money that decided that something had to be done to improve outcomes for students that were considered not college ready. For those of you that don't know, if you're not college ready, you get things in courses that grant you no credit. And we had students sometimes that would take like reading 1, 2, 3, writing 1, 2, 3, math, 1 and then 2 before they could earn, any credit that would transfer to a degree. And these students were spending their financial aid. And we felt that this was not right, that something had to be done to change policy that basically kept students segregated. So we wanted to change that. We partnered with a coordinating board, and we started with Palo Alto College, with Paso Community College, and South Texas College. And we have been able to grow over the years. We have been at 13 community college, a total of 26 campuses. We have taken our teaching strategies at the request of the coordinating board to what we call a Transformative Teaching Institute seminar to 32 community colleges, 20 state colleges and universities, and 20 secondary institutions. So we are what we are because of our faculty and students. Our students actually created our Student Transfer Motivational Conference with some faculty over here to my right. Our faculty created the Journal of Ideas and Pedagogy, Diane Lerma and Rafael. Our faculty designed our framework that we provide our students. Our faculty created our transformative teaching seminars, and our faculty helped create our customized college coaching. So when I say, we are the product of the contribution of all the individuals, many of them that are here and others that did not, it is the truth. So all I wanted to say is thank you very much. And before I left, I wanted to just show you some pictures of each of our cohorts from 2022 backwards to 2012. Oh, they already saw it? Yeah, well. So now I would love to introduce Vice Chancellor Ruth Reinhardt. Yes, she is a member of our board of directors, and before she was a member of the board, and before she had this position, she has always been a strong advocate for our organization, and we're delighted to be here with her. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to our reception here at Austin Community College. This is a mall that we turned into a community college. And so it's one of our campuses. I'd like to recognize Dr. Nora Comstock. She is a board trustee for Austin Community College. He really was pivotal in bringing Connect. The foundation for where we are today. And of course, Alejandra in the back, she is Irene, who's over there, who really helped us. We really appreciate you being here. Please enjoy the refreshments. Y se pueden llevar para la casa. If you want to stack for later in your hotel room, take some. We have baggies and things of that nature. So welcome, and if you'd like to take a tour, we can take a tour afterwards. It's a beautiful, really dynamic place. If you have had the chance to tour, it is very pretty. Thank you so much.
Yes, I speak pretty loud. You can have to this. I'm Dr. Stacey Barrett Evans. I've been with Austin since 2014, 2012, 2013, one of those years. And today I'm going to go ahead and talk about fundraising. So as she talked about it earlier, I got the encouragement to go to UC Davis, which is in San Diego back in 2013 with the guy behind you in the computer, and 2 other students. We only had $1,000 to our names. We didn't have anything but gift cards for the people that were sponsoring us. We raised a lot of money, selling hot chocolate, etc. all over the college. So we stayed in our room, right, in a hotel in Holiday Inn. We had a room each other. Everybody had their own room. But then we got to go to a conference, right, for like 5 days. And the conference had about 500 people from all across California. We didn't know anybody. When we walked into the room, the first thing they did was they told us to sit right in the front. And we got scared, right? We didn't know what was going on. But they made one, put on one of their shirts, and we raised a lot of money to keep on having this event happen. But this time it was at UT Austin. We've had it for almost 10 years now. So we're very excited about it. So my next thing to tell you is that help us continue that. Help us get students from Austin Dev, specifically from ACC today, from here to UT Austin to the Motivational Conference, for internships for Dr. Deborah McBeth, wherever she's at in the room. She has interns that actually help us with the newsletter. And then finally, also the fundraising helps us to continue the program, etc. Right? So today, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Ms. Alejandra Poche, who it was up her would have been able to have the event issue. So the chairs, the actual filmage, everything here. So
Si no me la pego, se me cae, ¿no?
Just very happy that you guys are here. I wasn't prepared with a speech, but I have a lot of passion for what I do because I take it personal. I feel like programs like this not only motivate students, they make them feel like they belong, they are in the right place, and they are part not only of this community but of this country, and they have so much talent to contribute and to give. So I am very passionate about Ascender and everything that this wonderful organization does. And so I am going to introduce you the star of the night. I'm going to introduce you the star of the night. She's from San Francisco Bay Area. She's writer and solo performer. Irma's solo play, Why Would I Mispronounce My Own Name, has received critical acclaim from audiences and reviewers, and explores themes of identity, racism, and other deeply ingrained and pervasive biases. Before turning her focus to writing, Irma spent 3 decades as a public interest lawyer. Irma was a staff attorney and later director of educational programs for the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, MADEF. As a proud feminist, she served as the executive director of Equal Rights Advocacy, a San Francisco-based organization advancing equality for women and girls for 15 years. Irma also spent several years in corporate law practice in San Francisco. She is the recipient of numerous awards, including the Margaret Brent Woman Lawyer Distinction Award given by the ABA Commission of Women in the Profession. Irma's opinion, pieces, and reporting on law, race, class, and culture have appeared in national and local news outlets through her work as a journalist in the Pacific News Service and New America Media. Pues, without further ado, welcome Irma Herrera.
I like my name. When it's Starbucks, I call myself Maria. As I am of the Latinx or Hispanic persuasion, the name fits me. And let's be real, 50-50 odds that any random Latina you meet is named Maria.
The name Irma is not difficult, but I know it looks like Irma to some of you. And that is one pronunciation of this name. But the name my parents gave me is Irma. Now, we all meet people with names that are not familiar to us. It's always okay to ask someone to help you with their name. Likewise, if someone gets your name wrong, it's important you let them know. I get a bit apprehensive when I meet someone with a name that I think I might mess up, which reminds me of this story my friend Maria shared. Check. Landline. Hello. Hello, I'm a volunteer with the Pima County Democratic Club, and we're calling all registered voters. Could I please speak to Esteban Gomez? Esteban is not available, but the name is pronounced Esteban. Esteban Gomez. Oh, I am so sorry. I just cannot roll my R's. My sensitivity about names starts when I'm just this little muchachita with my favorite uncle, Tio Otilio. Tio's married to my mother's older sister. Yes, her name is Maria. We so look forward to their Sunday afternoon visits. They make the 28-mile drive from Robstown to Alice. We race to the door. Oh, buenas tardes, tíos. Muy bienvenidos. Oh, muchas gracias. They always showed up with a box of freshly baked pastries from the panaderia. Inside, my favorites, empanadas with sweet, spicy pumpkin and marranitos, gingerbread cookies. En la cocina, my mother made coffee for the grown-ups, and we kids got a special treat, chocolate mexicano, which she frothed with an old wooden batidor. One day, we stopped at Tio Tilio and Tia Maria's house in the middle of a workday, and just as Tia's greeting us at the door, we hear the loud rumble of the big company truck that Tio drives delivering gravel. He'd come home for lunch. While the grown-ups are talking, I noticed that Tio's shirt had a patch with letters on it. I'm 6 years old and just learning to read, and I sound out the letters T-O-M. Tom? In the car, I say, why your shirt says Tom? Porque that's what they call him at work. People have different names at work. No, mexicano. Except the Americanos can't say Otilio, so they call him Tom. But white Tio doesn't teach him how to say his name. Ay, Claudio, esta niña tan preguntona. Ay, she always asking too many questions. Bienvenidos. Welcome to Alice, Texas, my hometown. Population 18,000. More than 70% of us are Mexican American. The rest are Anglo. We have two parochial schools, St. Elizabeth's on the north side, that's for Anglo children. And we attend St. Joseph's, 100% Mexican American. When I'm growing up, Alice is as segregated as Birmingham, Alabama. The Anglo neighborhoods on the north side, that's where you find the nice air-conditioned brick homes with green grassy lawns. In nuestros barrios on the south side, we have modest wood frame homes. The streets are paved, but we don't have sidewalks or nice parks. But these are vibrant neighborhoods full of good people. Right next door to our home is my father's 3-chair barber shop. And just up the street from that is the tiendita owned by the Castillo family that sells molcajetes for making salsa and guacamole and piñatas for our birthday celebrations. And around the corner from there is a tortilleria, the tortilla factory owned by my father, Tío Juan, and his wife, yes, another aunt named Maria. Now, back then, the big chain grocery stores didn't have packaged tortillas. There was no Hispanic food aisle. We bought these products in our community. I was about 10 when Alice got its first public swimming pool, and they put it here in a park in the north side because no Anglo parents would be expected to take their children to a Mexican-American neighborhood. Although inconvenient for our families, we loved our swimming pool and we begged the grown-ups for rides. Por favor, queremos ir al swimming pool. Llévenos al swimming pool. Niños, sálganse, sálganse. Se van a poner prietos como un charol. My mother's warning, get out of the sun, lest you turn dark as patent leather. We grew up hearing messages that it was better to have light skin. Ay, comadre Esperanza, did you see Carolina and Pepe's baby? She's so pretty, tan güerita con light skin. She looks like a gringa. Oh, they're so happy with their baby. By summer's end, I get quite dark. And sometimes when I wear white clothes, my mother would say, muchacha, cámbiate ropa, pareces mosca en leche. She wanted me to change clothes, saying I look like a fly in the wheel. I detested that expression, mosca en leche, and I wouldn't change. And my favorite form of spite against this color prejudice was to stay out in the hot South Texas sun, getting darker and darker. Take out your catechism books. That's sister purificación, sister purification, but she lets us call her Sister Puri. Our teachers are nuns from the Philippines, brown women from a colonized nation shipped halfway around the world and hell-bent on turning us into their idea of real Americans. And they speak with heavy Tagalog accents. For years, I thought that lettuce, the leafy green vegetable, was pronounced lettuce. Now, I like school, and I'm a good student, but catechism, so boring. I pretend that I'm writing down what Sister Puri's saying, but really, I'm making a note for Rosa. And when Sister Puri turns to face the blackboard, I give Rosa the note. Only Sister Puri is walking straight toward us. Rosa, give me that note. Do you wish to read this note to class? No way, because in it I wrote, I think Sister Puri is wearing a bra underneath her habit. Spanish, not allowed. You will be fined 1 nickel. But Sister Puri, that's not fair. The rule is that we can't speak Spanish. You notice that there was a rule we couldn't write in Espanol. No more tope. Now we kids know English, but Spanish is what we speak with our family and friends. And no matter how much they punish us, we cling to our home language. I couldn't wait to leave St. Joseph's. And luckily, there was no Catholic high school in Alice. So a few weeks before our 8th grade graduation, the 6 kids in my grade paid a visit to the school we'd be transferring to. It was so big. It had 2 floors and it had hallways with so many classrooms and hundreds of lockers. And it had a gymnasium and an auditorium and a library. And it was the first time that we had ever been in a classroom with an Anglo teacher and Anglo students. Listen up, everybody. We've got visitors from St. Joseph's Broken School. I will be your classmates next year. Before we ask our friends to introduce themselves, let's give them a big Texas howdy by way Jesus and Angel. Come on, boys. Hi. Come on, everybody. Let's wave. I am a dark, scrawny 13-year-old, a year younger than my classmates because I skipped degree. The girls are sprouting breasts, the boys tower over me. I am a self-conscious, nerdy pipsqueak. And the angel lady, the teacher, she's looking at me. How about you? Can you tell us your name? Teacher? My name is Irma Herrera. My classmates introduced themselves. Rosa Vega, Jorge Luna. We walk back to the cars and Rosa says, why did you say your name like that, tonta? I don't know. So that the Anglo people understand. That's how they say my name at the doctor and dentist. And that was the last time I mispronounced my own name. Alice, Texas was a 1 radio station town. La Radio Difusora KOPY. Spanish music and news from 6 a.m. to noon. The handoff song from Spanish to English radio at 12 o'clock sharp was the playing of the Star Spangled Banner. Okay, Bubba, let's do it. Howdy, this is Radio KOPY, bringing you the best country music in all of South Texas. We're going to be here from noon to midnight, starting off with Merle Haggard's The Bottle Let Me Down. Don't touch that dial. Esa música de borrachos tan fea, a mí no me gusta. The playing of the Star Spangled Banner was my mother's cue to switch to a Spanish language station in the nearby town of Corpus Christi. It was on KCST Radio that I first heard Dr. Hector P. Garcia, the co-founder of the American GI Forum, our community's version of the NAACP. And on his radio show, he said that Anglo children had far better schools than the ones we went to. And the reason there was a poll tax? To keep poor Negroes and Mexican Americans from voting. During World War II, An estimated 500,000 Mexican Americans were either drafted or volunteered. Among them, my father and his brothers, Tío Otilio, Dr. Garcia, they shipped off to Europe and Asia to help defeat the Nazis and the evils of racism. After the war, Congress passed the biggest, most successful and popular affirmative action program ever, the GI Bill. It provided great benefits, hiring preferences for veterans, low interest home loans, educational benefits, and free health care. The availability of low interest home loans sparked a massive construction boom all over the United States, and millions of young families became proud first-time homeowners. But these developments were in legally segregated neighborhoods. Black and brown people weren't allowed to live there. Money for college was another great benefit, but the vast majority of Black and brown people of that generation hadn't even finished high school. There was no college in their future. The GI Bill also provided for the building of hospitals and VA clinics all over the United States, but not one single facility was built in South Texas with its huge population of returning veterans. When my father needed hospitalization for war-related health issues, a friend had to drive him 200 miles north to a brand new facility in the Texas Hill Country in an area that was 90% Anglo. But you get the picture? And so did Dr. Garcia. He saw that the benefits of the GI Bill were not reaching his community, but the catalyst that mobilized the Mexican American community was the Longoria incident. Felix Longoria was born and raised in the town of Three Rivers, Texas, 50 miles from my hometown and even smaller. Felix was 25 years old, married, the father of a 4-year-old girl, when he was killed in a battle in the final days of the war in the Philippines. It took the United States government 3 years to return Felix's remains to his family, and they shipped his casket to the only funeral home in Three Rivers, an Anglo-owned business. And they would not allow the Longorias to hold services in their chapel. It was reserved for use only by Anglos. The disrespect of an American soldier killed in service to his country was more than our community was willing to bear. And this helped fuel the Mexican American civil rights movement. Dr. Garcia and this incident made national headlines. Lyndon Johnson, LBJ, had just been elected to the United States Senate from the state of Texas, and he arranged for Felix to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. Every summer, the Alice Echo runs a story about the record-breaking heat, always with a picture of some kid frying an egg on the sidewalk. Fried eggs remind me of the first Teflon pan my mother bought. We loved this pan so much, she bought one to give to her sister. And on one of their Sunday visits, I showed Tia Maria that you can make a perfect fried egg, mira tía, without any crystal. Qué buena invención. ¿Cómo son inteligentes esos americanos? Tía, you don't know that Teflon was invented by a white man? Pues creo que sí, sobrina, porque ellos tienen más educación. She was right about that. White people had far higher levels of education than Mexican Americans. And Teflon was invented by a white man, a PhD scientist at DuPont Laboratories. Our elders called white people los Americanos. Por favor, don't call them that. You were born here. We are all Americans. Sí, I know that, muchacha. Pero it's what we have always called it. Y tú, stop saying me what to do. Mostly we call white people Anglos. But we had other names too. We called them gringos, güeros, bolillos, gabachos. The word gabacho almost always preceded by the all-purpose modifier pinche. White people had a robust vocabulary of names for us. They called us beaners, cucarachas, dirty Mexicans, greasers, tacos, wetbacks, but the word illegal was not used back then to dehumanize our community. Some words pack huge emotional punch.
And some people were shocked. If you were racist, you knew why I was asking you that. Are you
I am
racist?
the least racist person that you have ever met. I am the least racist person.
Are you bigoted in any way?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
The word racist, kryptonite to most people. Okay, maybe not the Proud Boys or Oath Keepers. Here's the deal. We've all been exposed to racist ideas. They're like viruses. They're everywhere, and they influence our views. But it isn't just race. Think of all you've seen and heard that demeans people from all these groups. And in the past few weeks, if you've been following the news about what happened with the recordings released in Los Angeles, where 3 Latino city council members made such horrible, racist, awful comments about their constituents. Sadly, even those of us who have been at the receiving end of bigotry can sometimes act in ways that demean and dehumanize others. What do we gain by pretending these prejudices don't exist? And we can't begin to address our biases if we won't even name them. In recent years, hate crimes and police killings turned Black Lives Matter from a slogan into a massive social movement. The killing of George Floyd cracked open so many hearts, and millions of people gravitated to news articles and podcasts and books seeking to understand what brought us to this moment. And there was a widespread view that it was important that our nation do something to address racism. But conservative factions pushed back hard. And critical race theory, CRT, became a very effective tool for organizing the base. The purpose of these anti-CRT laws is to keep schools from teaching an accurate and inclusive history of our country. In the fight against integration, decades earlier, we heard many of the same arguments as we do today. This past year, 35 states have introduced anti-CRT laws. The state of Alabama was ahead of the game. They passed the law a year ago. Learning about our nation's shortcomings isn't teaching hate. These anti-CRT laws that don't say gay, the censorship of books, deny our children knowledge that they need to navigate in a multicultural and diverse world. Forced ignorance has never made anything better, and it will never make America great. I can't leave this topic without noting how CRT was injected into the judiciary hearings on the nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson to the United States Supreme Court.
They talk to kids that the babies are racist.
Senator, I do not believe that any child should be made to feel as though they are racist or though they are not valued or though they are less than, that they are victims, that they are oppressors. I don't believe in any of that.
As if the issue of whether babies are racist is ever going to be part of any legal proceeding. Pinche Ted Cruz, the man most hated. He is the man most hated by his peers in the United States Senate. So fast forward through high school. Pues yo quiero ir a la universidad en San Antonio. Tan lejos, so far. ¿Qué vas a ir a hacer allá sola? Ay, no, Ave María Purísima. When I graduated college, I was just 16, and my parents thought I was much too young to move far away from home. San Antonio is 2 hours north of Alice. So I started college at Texas A&I now, Texas A&M Kingsville. But when I turned 18, I was able to transfer my junior year. I gawked at the skyscrapers downtown. The tallest building in Alice was 3 stories high. And San Antonio, with 500,000 people, like Alice, it had separate barrios for Anglos and for Mexican Americans, but it had entire neighborhoods of Black people. And it was the first time I saw Chinese people. How could so many different kinds of people all live in one place? I move into my dorm. Oh, hi, I'm Jody from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. What state are you from? When Jody arrived in San Antonio, she knew nothing about the divided worlds of Anglos and Mexican Americans. And she gets assigned to share a 2-bedroom suite with Eva, Maria, and with me. And as best we could tell, she had no prejudice against us. Sometimes Eva, Maria, and I would speak Spanish to each other, and we were used to hearing snide remarks from Anglo kids like, oh, I wish they wouldn't speak Mexican. Don't they know this is America? But not Jody. I love it when you guys speak Spanish. I think it's groovy. Of course it was groovy. It was the late 60s. And Jody was my first white friend. And she began demystifying white people for me. One day, a group of girls, all of us Mexican Americans, we decide to hang out at the dorm's TV lounge. But on the screen, Black men and women weeping. An endless loop of Dr. King's speeches and commentary about his shocking assassination. We feel pain too, because we knew Dr. King was also fighting for our rights. The power of preachers and lawyers came into clear focus. They were leading the fight against Jim Crow. And I wanted to be part of that movement because Mexican Americans face the same kind of discrimination. It was then that I remembered my mother's irritation with all my questions. Muchacha preguntona, ¿eres abogada? Are you a lawyer? And that must have planted the seed that someday I could be a lawyer. University of Notre Dame, first day of law school. There's 75 people in this classroom, mostly white guys, 10 or 12 women, a handful of students of color. I wait apprehensively as the professor calls roll. Greg Desjardins. Hello, Professor. It's pronounced Desjardins. Desjardins. Thank you, Mr. Desjardins. Made a note of it. Grew up in a French-Canadian family. There, our name was Dutile. Here, Amadutile. The professor calls a few more names and then Irma Herrera. Hello, Professor. It's pronounced Irma Herrera. In Spanish, the H is silent. All eyes on me, then on him. Irma Herrera. Thank you, Ms. Herrera. Made a note of it. Since leaving St. Joseph's, only a handful of teachers or professors had ever even tried to say my name. Now, I didn't go straight to law school. I worked for several years, and when I was considering that option, I contacted the one Chicano I knew who'd taken that path, and Ernesto encouraged me to consider the University of Notre Dame, telling me they were actively recruiting minority students. I applied, got accepted, and a few months later, sight unseen, I moved to South Bend, Indiana. If you watch college football, you've seen Notre Dame's beautiful campus with its lakes, the Basilica, the Golden Dome, and there's Memorial Library, now called the Hesford Library, with a 13-story granite mosaic affectionately known as Touchdown Jesus. Because from some seats in the stadium, Jesus is perfectly lined up with the goalpost. Everybody loved Notre Dame football. And the years I was there, the star quarterback was Joe Montana. As I walked through campus, I am in a sea of white students. An occasional black or brown face float past me, and the words mosca and leche pop into my mind. I was a bit of a mosca and leche at Notre Dame, but I made great friends and I got a fine legal education. I had been inspired by Dr. King and Dr. Garcia to pursue a career working for justice. One day, I'm having coffee with Jeffrey after federal income tax class. And that day, the professor had grilled me about business expenses and deductions. Not as interesting as you might think. Great job in class, Irma. You were really prepared. You read everything. Has anyone ever told you you're a credit to your people? Jeffrey, has anyone ever told you that you are a debit to yours? My first law job, legal aid lawyer, representing farm workers in Washington State's Yakima Valley. Pues fíjese, me quebré el brazo en la pizca de manzana y el jefe me despachó. Mr. Gonzalez fell off a ladder picking apples, broke his arm, fired on the spot, and they won't pay him for wages he's already earned. My client and I attended deposition at a fancy law firm. Jake Williams, I noticed this deposition. I represent the defendant, Frederickson Farms. We go around the table stating our appearances for the record. Irma Herrera, with Evergreen Legal Services, on behalf of the plaintiff, Mr. Juan Gonzalez, seated next to me. I'll spell my name. Irma is I-R-M-A, last name H-E-R-R-E-R-A. I'd like to put on the record I'm having a difficult time understanding Miss Herrera because of her very heavy accent. A wave of heat rises from the pit of my stomach to the top of my head. He didn't understand my name, so he thinks it's a problem with my English. Is he just messing with me because I'm a rookie lawyer? I get what he doesn't understand, what I'm doing here. Because in his world, women who look like me clean his house and take care of his children. He's never met a Chicana lawyer before because I am the first one in Eastern Washington. Everyone's eyes are cast downward, except for the court reporter and Williams waiting for my response. Your view is duly noted, sir. Please proceed. After 2 years in Eastern Washington, my world felt so small, like it did back in Alice. I'm in my late 20s, unattached, and I want to move to a big city. I get a job in San Francisco with MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund. I've lived away from the Southwest for almost a decade. And I am so at home seeing Spanish names everywhere. San Francisco, Sacramento, Sierra Nevada. All these names testament to the long-standing Spanish and Mexican presence. So it surprises me that when I introduce myself as Irma Herrera, I'm sometimes asked, oh, where are you from? No, I mean, like, where were you born? Well, no, what I'm really asking is, where did your parents come from? But the answer to all of that is Texas. Do the words manifest destiny ring a bell? Are you having flashbacks to high school American history? Manifest destiny, the core belief that white settlers were destined to occupy and control the North American continent from sea to shining sea. You do notice a bit of an impediment. What's the U.S. to do? Well, it took the land from native people and forced them into reservations. And it invaded Mexico. To end that war, Mexico had to fork over almost half of its territory. California, Texas, the entire Southwest was part of Mexico until the year before the gold rush. The peace treaty between the two countries conferred citizenship on everyone who lived there and gave Mexicans the right to continue using their native language. Spanish has been spoken here continuously for over 500 years. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. We aren't going anywhere because this is our home. But I digress. I was telling you about moving to San Francisco to work for MALDEF. I'm just starting my 3rd year out of law school, and I get to work on a case headed to the U.S. Supreme Court. The state of Texas passed a law that denied undocumented children the right to a free public education, Plyler versus Doe. And MALDEF represented these children and won at the district court and court of appeals. But the state of Texas appealed to the United States Supreme Court. And that court ruled that the U.S. Constitution gave these children the right everyone else had. And that included the right to a free public education. The day we got the great news from the Supreme Court, we celebrated the office. I tell my colleagues, okay, now that we got these kids into school, how do we keep teachers from changing their names? And that unleashed a flurry of name stories. In 3rd grade, my Miss McGuire called me Marian. I told her, teacher, I'm a boy. My name is Mariano. Pero no, she insisted on calling me Marian. I didn't have it as bad as Jesus. She called him Jesus. Oh, we were so pinches, we threw ourselves on the floor. Jesus, make a miracle. Jesus. was the smartest kid in our grade, pero sabes, he never raised his hand. Nunca. Well, when I started school in Compton, the teachers called me Jack, and then everybody knew me as Jack. But when I went to college at Yale, I decided to reclaim my name. And I introduced myself as Joaquin. And I would tell people, Joaquin, it's not hard, like walking, Joaquin. Anyway, I was active with the UFW Great Boycott back then. And one day I'm with this reverend and two nuns, and we're gonna go meet with a grocery store manager. And driving there, the priest says to me, can you remind me how to say your name, son? And so I tell him, it's Joaquin Avila, sir. Joaquin Avila. Okay, I've got that, thank you. So we get to the meeting, he introduces himself. He says, this is Sister Mary Agnes, Sister Bernadette, and Yale student, Hava Nagila.
Please take your seats so the program can start. Welcome to the Margaret Franklin Awards Luncheon, celebrating women lawyers of distinction. Please take your seats.
I am at the Westin Hotel in Chicago's Magnificent Mile. There's 700 people in this banquet room, including my mother and my siblings, my nieces. They've driven from South Texas to Chicago because I'm getting a very prestigious award from the American Bar Association. It is named after the first woman lawyer in the United States, Margaret Brink. Before each of the 6 honorees is introduced, they will show this video on 2 huge screens about our personal and professional accomplishments.
And Irma Herrera graduated college at age 20. Irma had not yet set her sights on becoming a lawyer. But she was clear about one thing. Discrimination against Mexican Americans was keeping her community from opportunities many took for granted. And Irma knew she would do something about it.
I've listened to this for 6 long minutes. And now I must go to the podium and graciously accept my award. Good afternoon and thank you. Allow me to introduce myself and to tell you who I really am. It starts with knowing my name, which is Irma Herrera. I later heard that when the video started rolling, our 9-year-old son, Tony, chimed up and said, "Oh, that's not how you say my mommy's name. I think she's gonna be mad." Anyone remember Sergio Romo wearing this "I Just Look Illegal" t-shirt at the San Francisco Giants World Series victory parade? Newscasters all abuzz. Is Sergio Romo trying to make some kind of political statement? And is it appropriate? Oh, you bet he was. He was protesting the anti-immigrant laws that started with Arizona's Show Me Your Papers law. We weren't the only ones affected. Some American Indians reported being pulled over by police and asked about their immigration status. Following Arizona's lead, a frenzy of anti-immigrant laws were introduced in state after state, just like we see today, with laws targeting trans youth, suppressing voting, and with the reversal of Roe versus Wade, you can be sure that new state laws are coming, curtailing presently existing rights. In fact, Greg Abbott announced when the opinion was first leaked that he would maybe ask the state to reconsider the question of educated undocumented kids. The harshest law was passed by the state of Alabama. It Its intent was to make the lives of undocumented immigrants so miserable that they would self-deport. Schools began asking parents about their legal status and that of their children, frightened many parents with sending their kids to school. The law made it unlawful for undocumented people to enter into any kind of contracts. You have any idea how many contracts you're a party to? You pay rent, have a mortgage, car note, cell phone service. All these are contracts. Tens of thousands of Latinos left the state, including some permanent residents and American citizens. Back then, I was taking a break from law and working as a journalist. I called an Alabama legislator that had voted against this anti-immigrant law. I wanted to interview her. Alabama House of Representatives, may I help you? I thought I had called the office of Representative Marita Coleman. No one picked up at her office. May I type a message? Oh, yes, thank you very much. I'm a journalist in San Francisco. My name is Irma Herrera, and I'd like to leave my name and phone number. I'll spell that for you. Irma is IRMA. That is a foreign name, and I cannot talk to you. I must have sounded illegal to her. I'm 2,500 miles from Alabama, and my very name put me under a cloud of suspicion. A persistent use of racial slurs and derogatory images were in the news and social media, and they directed hate and mistreatment towards our community. And it was only going to get worse. Remember this? Lawyers ask courts, is it lawful for the United States government to hold children under these conditions?
If you don't have a toothbrush, if you don't have soap, if you don't have a blanket, it's not safe and sanitary. Well, wouldn't everybody agree to that? Do you agree to that?
Well, I think there's fair reason to find that those things may be part of safe and sanitary.
Maybe are a part. What do you say maybe? You mean there are circumstances when a person doesn't need to have a toothbrush, toothpaste, and soap for days?
In CBP custody, it's frequently intended to be much shorter term. So it may be that for a shorter term stay in CBP custody, that some of those things may not be required.
It wasn't as though those people were there for 12 hours and then moved on to the hotel. No, they were there for a fairly sustained period. And at least according to the evidence that the judge believed, they were getting these things for a fairly sustained period.
A. Wallace Tashima. The judge asking most of these questions spent 3 years of his childhood in an internment camp behind a barbed wire fence. He was 7 years old when his family was among the 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry rounded up by the US government during World War II. The Ninth Circuit held unanimously that the government was violating the rights of these children. 5,000 kids, from toddlers to teenagers, were separated from their families, and many reported being abused in detention. 2.5 weeks ago, the most recent data was released. 700 of these kids have not yet been reunited with their families. Saturday morning, I'm out running errands. A news story about a mass shooting at a Walmart in El Paso. I think of my best friend and her family and all the people I know in El Paso. I rush home and turn on my television. News crews, police cruisers, shot and grief-stricken people that looked like my family and friends. It's unbearable to watch. A few hours later, we learned that a white supremacist had driven 8 hours from a Dallas suburb to El Paso, where he shot 46 people, ages 2 to 82, simply because they looked Mexican. He said he was doing his part to stop the Hispanic invasion of Texas. These are the 23 people he killed. An Appalachian artist named Ellen Elms, who'd never met any of these good people, spent a year of her life learning about them and painting their individual portraits, which she presented to their families and to the city of El Paso as a show of solidarity and support. She did this for the first year anniversary of this mass killing. Who is safe in a country when these things happen? None of us is safe until all of us are safe. I sometimes wonder what my life would be like if I had a more American name, like Nora, the name my parents intended to give me. But a few weeks before I was born, one of my tias gave birth to a baby girl and they named her Nora. My 5-year-old sister, again, hearing my parents talk about this, said, name the baby Irma, the name of a much-loved neighborhood girl. Did you know that Irma in Portuguese means sister? Made me like my name even more, knowing that my big sister named me sister. Now these days, when people ask, where are you from? I know, where are you really from? I tell them I'm from Denmark. Because a few years ago, I was in Copenhagen and I learned that the oldest and largest grocery chain in that country is named Irma and pronounced very much like my name. I walk into my namesake store and Irma label products everywhere. That's Irma mustard. They even have Irma Mexican food. I push that into the shopping cart and fill it up with all kinds of Irma label products. And I pack my meat into my very own personalized. And as I stand there in the middle of this store in Copenhagen, I wonder if people back home thought I was from Denmark, would they try harder to say my name? Stacy, who stepped in, Dr. Stacy Ibarra. When I perform in a theater, we spend days working with tech to figure out when things play, where I'm going to be. So please, another round of applause for her. First time I do, it's not quite the full show. I have to take out some material to make it a bit shorter. I put these out. I just finished a 5-week run at a theater in Berkeley, and these are from there. But I put it out so you have a little more information about me and what I'm doing, and so that you can connect with me on social media or get on my mailing list. I put out a newsletter a couple times a month if I'm lucky, and which I talk about all these issues and I relate them to the news and what's going on in our country. And anyway, I'm just so happy to be part of Ascendec's 10th anniversary, the education of children, especially children whose families have not had an opportunity to being college ready is super, super important to me. So it meant a lot that I was invited to bring my play and to present it in this venue. So thank you all so much. Keep up the great work.
On the back, we have Francisco Lara Garcia. Bien. Correct. Some hors d'oeuvres, and then we have Francisco, who's gonna start some trova.
All right.
Francisco finished last May, and right now he's going for nursing, correct?
Yes.
Very nice.